welcome back to Everyday Struggle on Complex News. I'm Nadeska here with my guys Akademiks and Wayno. Good morning.
Coolin', man. How y'all doing this morning?
Good, how are you?
I am doing great.
You got some rest?
I actually did get some rest.
You look rested.
Really?
Yeah, you do.
What does look rested mean?
I mean, I see you every morning.
You weren't sleeping before the lights turned on.
Okay, that's how y'all gauge it?
Step up, yeah, one step at a time.
I slept in the car. But it's all good, man. I'm here to talk some hip-hop, man. It's the day after Drake Day. You know what I mean? I see all the Drake stands were settling in. We're getting into the album. Album still, it hits harder today than yesterday.
Really?
And the more the days go by, the better it sounds.
Wayno, would you agree?
You not.
No.
So that was 30,
yeah.
he was 30 listens in yesterday. Where you at now?
100.
100.
Yeah, he hasn't listened since then, man. He hasn't listened since then. Hey, by the way, I'm going to call it right now. In My Feelings of Fucking Smash is going to be #1. Trust me, okay? Kiki, can you feel? Oh, that's just fire, yo. Suits the City Girls, that's just a hit. But what's up? What are we talking about today?
Wow, all right, so let's talk about Drake.
What, Drake?
We might as well, yeah.
Let's keep talking about Drake.
But actually, so 21 Savage did an interview with GQ. In it, he said, Drake deserves more respect for introducing new artists to the fold. Can you read this for me?
He do a lot of shit. Well, do I gotta read it in his voice?
Yeah.
He do a lot of shit for up-and-coming rappers, period. I don't think he get the respect for that. Every fucking year he pull up a new artist. Ain't no other artist on his level do that shit.
Now, so we know, like, Drake does work with a lot of new artists, even people like Skepta, Georgia Smith, Lil Baby. He does give people a bigger platform. Right. How conscious do you guys think he is when he's, like, doing these collabs?
I mean, in order to stay youthful, you got to stay around the youth, right? I think he's mindful of that. Every year we seen this, even like when Drake was becoming that guy and like Nipsey was coming up at the same time, but he wasn't like at Drake's level. He put him on that record Killers with him. Like, so he's always been able to like extend a hand to people, and he doesn't get enough credit for it because remember Ak said that who does he put on? I mean, not from his own team, but if you think in terms of on an every year basis, he does give somebody a look. You know, and
sure.
I can't say that for any artist that's been in his position. I mean, most of the people that's been in his position usually put people on that was on their label.
That's true.
He goes out and grabs a guy or jumps on their song and makes it hotter and gives them a whole career, you know?
Even the samples he used on this, like City Girls, he is putting on new artists, but he's also pretty conscious of sort of paying respects to the legends and keeping them in the fold, especially on this part. Do we give him enough credit for that, Akademiks?
Let's keep it real. Yeah, I know this is Drake week, but we gotta just call a spade a spade. The reason why Drake gets a knock as opposed to other artists, Kanye does it a lot too. Like Kanye fucks with new artists too. Like he, you know what I mean? Kanye and Drake, and I won't, there's some other artists, especially once they get to a certain level where they're still trying to be trendy but still be original. Yeah, they're expert surfers. They gotta ride the wave. You feel me? And a lot of times these new artists, and when I mean, I'm saying it respectfully, like these new artists that have their own little waves, and you have to be able to dabble in it, but also keep yourself. You know what I mean? You still show that you're in tune with what's going on. The reason why Drake gets a knock more than like Ye is that Drake had a run where he would just jump on like a remix or so, but then you hear his album, and none of them niggas who he fucking featured or he'll jump on their remix, they'll ever be on his project. It felt like he was just trying to capitalize off a song that had a buzz already. So yeah, it does give them a boost, but most of the times it felt like it was like a one-sided type of thing. Like, yeah, you guys get a boost, but pretty much Drake took his song, almost, right? He used your song as his club hit, and then his album is his emotional shit. So people used to get at him like, yo, this is not fair. I remember Rico Love, he broke it down. He was like, yo, you'll see Drake jump on these niggas' songs. You'll never see them niggas on his album, right? Yeah. I think that kind of started to change once we hit views going into More Life. And I think Drake started to, and you can even hear it on this album, Scorpion, he's embracing that this current sound and his sound, there is a intersection. So you hear some of the people that you would normally see him jump on their tracks, they're coming into his world. Yeah. And I think that's dope because now it feels two-sided, right? I'm used to seeing him just jumping on the new hot record when he wants to get that club record. But now when you see him making music with these guys and he's bringing them into his world, I think it's a beautiful thing. Wait. So now I think that knock should go away. Unfortunately, I think people are just caught up on the past, and they think that he's some like super vulture.
Right.
Well, you can't, you know, I can't even knock him for not putting him on his album because a lot of times you got to see how things pan out. Because a lot of these artists, now if Drake gives you that look, you can fumble that too. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like he could give you that look and then you could go off.
It's been fumbled. We've seen that happen.
A lot of people who have got torches passes to them or batons, in a sense, have dropped them. So even like when he did the Migos with Versace, right? Of course, like at that time, I think the first record I heard from them was Bando, right? And I wasn't really sold on Bando, and he jumped on Versace. It made me listen to everything else. But they still had to do a lot of work in order to become the They weren't the Migos they are today.
Yeah, not at all.
Right? So of course, a year or two later, you might be deserving of that look, but he's definitely not going to throw you right on his album based on him just jumping on your shit. Like, if anything, who doesn't want that? If Drake jumps on your record, your life has changed. Everything is different for you.
Yeah, but it's also, it's a gift and a curse though. Like I spoke to Trippie, who was supposed to be featured on God's Plan. He wasn't, and maybe it's just because he's saying it because God's Plan is so successful. He's not on the record, so maybe that's why he has this stance. But he's like, you know what? He's like, honestly, I don't want my first big look to be, oh, just because Drake is on a record with me, because that it does leave a shadow on my career, right? That I have to prove people that the only reason why they know me or the only reason why I'm still here is not because Drake hopped on a song.
That's interesting for Trippie to say, because this wouldn't be his first. He's had big records on his own, right?
Yeah,
so I feel like he's in a place where a Drake collab could help open him to a wider audience. I don't know that it hurts him.
And I mean, that's cool for him to say, but at the same time, like, I don't want to hear Trippie on God's Plan. Like, really, like, think about in terms of that song. Like, I wouldn't want to hear Trippie on that. I want to hear him on something else. But I do.
You want to hear him on that shit.
You want to hear him on God's Plan?
Send me the verse, I'll leak it.
I feel like there are other songs on the Scorpion album that he could have been on, but
yeah.
God's Plan.
All right, but even that was a small point I was trying to make. Like, the larger point was even, like, I know everybody's all buddy now. It's the Aubrey and the Three Migos. I'm there, front row. But we have to remember what happened after Versace. Yo, I followed the Migos ever since then. They used to be some disgruntled motherfuckers on Twitters. They used to be like, not really sending shots directly at Drake, but just really the game, because what happened is when Drake jumps on an artist's record at first, and I think that's why sometimes people are mad. And I've seen people even complain about that with Kanye. Chief Keef and them, like Young Chop, like, right? They're saying, yo, you fucked with us while we had our wave, and you just fucking tossed us to the left. Once, like, you felt you used it up, and once you felt like the season was done, all right, nigga, get the fuck out of here. We on to the next.
But then again, what are they expecting? I'm not saying that, like, that's the way for shit to work out, but one of you just said blessing and a curse. So someone gives you a gift, there's always going to be a bad side. It really depends on what you do. So should they then have not ever fucked with Kanye?
Well, let me jump in on this one, right? You can't, if Kanye jumps on your record, and I remember that time, because Young Chop was like, he changed the beat, he didn't have the session or the files, he did it however he wanted to do. So what, yo? What was you doing? But you know how much that record changed your life when that shit gets changed to a certain, I mean, he remixed it? My thing is like, okay, once he jumped on it, what was y'all ready for? Was y'all business intact? Were y'all ready to put more records out? I really look at the whole shit, like with that Chicago shit, is they didn't really understand what they had. I felt like they could have had a way bigger wave than even a G-Unit because of, in terms of how they had the youth. They was just rapping. And they had like the youth, and they're still only, what, 20 years old, 22. And a lot of them that was lit at that time fell off. That's why you can't just come and stand next to them. Now, when I give you this opportunity, this presence, you got to take that shit and run with it. And you may not know how to do it as an artist, but your team better know how to do it, your manager, your creative director, your label, whomever. If they can't capitalize off of it, then how you gonna be mad at Kanye for flipping, bouncing your record?
Again, I think that knock it's not a fair knock to give Drake at this point, because I think Drake is doing a phenomenal job of really showing that love back, and not only just getting on a record, but really embracing these guys, you know what I mean, and really bigging them up. But I understand, that's my whole point. I understand where it came from, because I know everyone is like caught up in the moment, but I remember Future didn't like that nigga at first. That nigga Drake hopped on Tony Montana.
Right?
Drake, he wanted Drake to come to the video shoot.
Come to the video, right?
Drake was at some place like eating like pasta. You get me? And I remember Future complaining about it by saying, yo, you're that big of an artist. This is my biggest look. If you're gonna hop on a remix and this is gonna be the official remix, you gotta understand how much it means to me.
Right.
You gotta show up.
Right.
Right? And Future felt a certain type of way about it. You get me? Most of the artists, like even think about, he jumped on Fetty Wap's song. That song never came out officially, right? I heard some My Way,
remix.
some business stuff with that. From what I hear, and I talked to even 42, like when Drake hops on your track, that's OVO track now. You get me? Like shit is different.
Right.
And that's not really Drake's fault. He's a huge artist. Yeah. To clear that record costs a lot. You might not, you get me? So they have to do things to get around it.
Right.
But you could understand as a, especially how fans are looking at it, and then maybe even how some of the artists feel who feel like Drake fucks with him for a little bit, then just moves on.
Right.
Yeah, you are going to get the knock that you probably just use people's wave and then move on. But again, in 2018, for the last 2 years, especially since 2015, since he collaborated with Future, which I didn't ever expect he would collaborate with an artist like that.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
And to see how he's embraced the Migos, like he shows mutual love to everybody in QC.
Right.
To see how, I mean, QC from Yachty, City Girls, they're down with the movement, and Lil Baby. Clearly, I think Drake realizes that even though he's at such a pinnacle in his career, like he should embrace these people and just show more love. Show more love. That's all it's about.
And I mean, to your point, but you gave a good example with Fetty Wap, because when you look in retrospect of where Fetty Wap's career has gone, that might have not been the best look for Drake to give him that look. Now unfortunately, he's not at the same place he was musically a few years ago, right? And I mean, it always comes back to Jay-Z one way or another, right? But Jay-Z did that on like Blueprint 3. He put, Cudi was on that album,
right.
Cole was on that album, Drake was on that album when they were still becoming those new guys. Wale signed with Roc Nation Management around that time, around 2008 when he dropped his first album. So, like I said, in order to stay young, you gotta stay around the youth. That's how you able to see the future. You know?
And even though, you know what I mean, I ain't gonna kill my man Drake completely. He is right with some of you niggas because, you know what I mean, McConan came out and said that nigga Drake just signed me because he liked one record. Duh.
But yeah,
you feel me? So again, I'm not blaming Drake with everything, but again, I'm just glad he's embracing the artist.
Right.
I think that's dope.
Yeah, he does. He should get a little bit more credit for it because a lot of his peers are not doing that at all.
Yeah, and it's about leading by example.
Right.
Because again, when it felt like he was selfish for a little bit, but now embrace people.
Although you do have to be a little bit selfish, right? Business is business at the end of the day. So some of it's just that's how it is.
He's the guy right now. He has to be, you know.
All right, so Cardi B is now the first female rapper to have 2 #1 tracks on the Billboard Hot 100. Of course, first Bodak Yellow had the #1 spot for 3 weeks. Now she's back at #1 with I Like It featuring J Balvin and Bad Bunny. She hopped on Instagram to show her appreciation. Let's take a look. #1! I'm so excited. I like it with #1. #1 on the Hot 100. I'm so excited. Now we're just waiting on Baby Girl. Baby Girl.
#1 on you, ho!
Baby Girl. Woo! We waited on Baby Girl. I'm so happy. Yo, when Cardi has his baby and starts selling strollers to soccer moms, it's gonna be legendary. All right, so if we're considering the legends, female rappers, are we ready to say that Cardi's one of the best female, not period, one of the best rappers to date?
I say one of the best
hip-hop artists to date.
I say hip-hop entertainers. What people don't know is that the person that produced Bodak Yellow produced this as well, Jay White. You know, so it goes back to artists kind of sticking with their guns, because imagine she has this big major hit and then she never works with that guy again. You know, we've seen that happen so many times, but definitely got to put her in there as one of the top entertainers because she doesn't write all her music. Right. I'm not going to call her the best female, best rapper, right? But definitely one of the best entertainers. You know?
Cardi B, I'm going to remove best out of it, and I'll say she's one of the most successful.
Okay.
She is redefining what success means and should mean to be a female in rap. Again, I always say, and I'm sorry to like fall back on this example, but this is the most recent example of like the top rapper that we've kind of scrutinized. Nicki Minaj, I always say, Nicki's a fucking superstar. She's out of this planet. She's one of the top 5, or used to be, right? The top 5 like rappers in terms of brand and all that.
Rappers, at least female rappers, because you know they
rappers, just rappers in the game. Yeah. You get me? However, when she drops an album, her sales won't look like the Drakes or Post Malone. You know why? Unfortunately, that's just the era we live in and the time we live in. She's a woman. A lot of men aren't gonna buy it. But are they aware? Absolutely. May they listen? Yeah. But the majority of people that's gonna buy it is women, right? So it's hard to compare women's success a lot of times in rap. You know what I mean? This is not like just pop or just singing shit or just R&B. In rap to like men like Drake or something like that. So to see Cardi B like breaking all these records, and she's breaking records that are tantamount to like Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift is singing fucking country music. You get me? And Cardi's a woman in rap. I think it's phenomenal. So hats off to her. Offset got to keep his eye on the road. Again, he just came off a horrific accident, and God bless their unborn child.
But Cardi just got him out of a speeding ticket too, I think.
Okay, well, he shouldn't be speeding, period.
Shouts out to the Bronx, man.
But I will say, and I cannot leave this point without saying, I have been studying for the last 3 months, and I have been taking Rosetta Stone. I got to learn Spanish, man. Latin trap is the most popping thing out here. 100%. I'll make a bet. I'll bet $1,000.
What?
Drake dropping a Spanish track in the next 9 months. That's how fact.
Yeah, wasn't he in the studio with one of these dudes? Was it Bad Bunny?
These guys,
that might have cut.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just trying. Like, we all know that. Like, of course, Spanish is like the reach globally is huge. But to see the popularity of these dudes, yo, for Latin trap, and I compare it to reggaeton, which felt niche even at its peak. Like, we had Daddy Yankee and everything, but still felt niche. Yeah. These Latin trap niggas, man, this Bad Bunny nigga, like, this shit is ridiculous. Like, I was watching.
Are you going to the Bad Bunny show? You look excited.
No, well, the chick I'm with, she want to go. All right. But anyway, no, like, seriously, I was watching this dude on Instagram, and again, it's Instagram Live, and I'm watching 35,000 people, like, listen to this guy just talk, and I'm like, damn, this is like a whole new untapped portion of music. And Cardi B, who is half like Hispanic, right? She's
Dominican.
Okay, good. Okay, she's from the Bronx, right? Yeah. So that's a different type of
ethnicity.
No, that's a different type of Dominican, you know.
Right.
So this record works for her, and honestly, I said all that shit to say, Cardi, keep working with these motherfuckers, because I do believe that the style complements each other, and to see a record where half of the record is in Spanish, #1, tells you about the untapped market, okay? Salute to Ozuna, Bad Bunny, who else?
Look at this guy.
There's another one. I got shot up. Yeah, I might need a record with these niggas.
You know what's so funny? Great. How about it being like 2 of the biggest records in the past, is that 5? Let's just say this decade is going to be I like it and don't like, right? It's going to be 2 opposite sides of the coin. But this shit was in the I went to go see the Uncle Drew movie. It's already getting licensed in movies and all of that. So yeah, it's going to continue to be a big record. Well, it's platinum. Excuse me, it's platinum now, right?
Yeah.
This shit is going to end up doing diamond or something crazy like that, for real. When did her album come out? March?
Listen, man, all y'all niggas should have took notes from Despacito, okay? Man, get on the wave. Everybody learn some Spanish and just do your thing. I'm telling you, man. Okay?
I can't see Act seriously trying to learn Spanish.
It would be terrible.
By the way, and I will say this, entertainers are smart, and it is monkey see, monkey do. It's entertainment business, of course. Salute to my nigga Tory Lanez. I hit him there, like, what was it, a week ago? I said, nigga, bring your ass up to Everyday Struggle. We need to talk some beef, okay? I'm sorry, that's how I talk to people. And it was a mix of Pusha T and Drake, man. I wanted Tory here to fucking talk about it. So, yo, he's like, yo, I'm gonna be in New York, but I'm doing all press. I'm like, the fuck are you doing press for? He's like, I'm dropping a Latin R&B album. I'm like,
a Latin R&B album?
Yes, Tory Lanez. Salute to my man Tory. He got a Latin R&B album out. He did it. I can't remember the guy. It might be Ozuna or Angel. That's the guy's name.
Oh my God, you're
yeah, it's a lot.
I'm telling you, yo. So salute to Tory, and before all the rappers run there, I just want to say Tory was ahead of his time, and Cardi B, she doing her thing. Okay?
All right, so on to some more good news. Let's talk about Kodak Black. It's been a while, so we know Kodak is still behind bars till at least September, but he is making some life changes. Now, 3 months ago, a judge allowed him to get a tutor, and he recently passed his GED test, so he's super excited. He said, I just received my high school diploma today, and although it's a big accomplishment for me, I'm yearning for more. I appreciate my teachers, on and on. He said, thank you for when you're getting frustrated with me, basically dealing with it. Man, this is a big step for Kodak, it feels like.
Where you find that statement at? He ain't right no yearning for more. That ain't no
That was
Kodak.
my favorite word in that statement. I love it.
All right, man.
He pulled out the dictionary for that.
Hey, I love this. Kodak Black, one of my favorite entertainers and human beings. I like seeing the...
Have you actually, is this a rapper you've actually met, or?
No, but we've talked a bunch.
Have you and Drake met yet, or you guys?
He knows
met most
everybody and
No,
never met them
That's
face
the
to
funniest
face.
thing.
I'm like FaceTime buddies with a lot
But
of
you
people.
never meet
Okay.
them.
Kodak has cussed me out before. I've helped him get his Instagram back, and then we've just talked random life shit. Like he's one thing I like about him is that he just doesn't know how to like not say what he feels, right? So even if like it comes off wrong, it comes off wrong. Fuck it. Like I don't even think he's conscious of that or conscious of like let me phrase certain things to make you feel okay. Now he's locked up, and the last time he was locked up, he got very spiritual. It was reflected in his music when he came out, and this time he's locked up, he's learned the importance of education. My thing with Kodak, and I love everything he's doing, and you know what, he made a very grown-up decision in my mind to say, you know what, I'm not gonna just say, hey, let me back out of jail, and yeah, you want me to move, I'll move, but I'll still be on probation. He said, you know what, if it's 6 months, I'll take the 6 months, because when I'm out of here, I'm off papers, period. I don't want to be on
Doesn't he have other charges pending in other places?
Well, he had 2 convictions, and it was a probation for like 3 years, but it's gonna be all done when he gets out. Okay. He does have a current charge of alleged sexual assault, which has not been like even went to trial yet. Right. But so he'll be good. Okay. He wants when he gets out that he's not in trouble if he goes to like the strip club to like perform or something like that, or he doesn't tell his peer or something like that. Well, I hope the decisions that it seems that he's making while behind bars, and I know he's being supervised, I hope when he comes out, he still shows that level of responsibility. Because when he came out, he had a Bible, he had a suit and tie and everything. I said, man, Kodak on his shit. Right. And then on Instagram Live, we all know what happened. So Kodak, salute to you. And for him to say getting his GD was like just as important as the day he got his chain, shows me a guy.
Wait.
He said that.
He said that?
Yeah. Or it's when he was taking the GED ready test or something like that, and I think he passed that. He was like, is it like getting my first chain or something?
All right, so look, I'm not gonna down this young man and all of that, but I have a lot of friends that have spent a lot of time in prison, and I'm gonna say this. I'm tired of rich people doing shit in jail that they could have did when they was home. Right? No, seriously. Because all of these things, all right, it's making him a better person, right? Like, I get that. But, brother, you could have got your GED here. You could have cleaned yourself up here. So I want you to realize that when you do get out, stay here. People love you. They love your music. But stop waiting till you get into a bad situation to do something good.
There's too many distractions in the real world, I think, right? When you're locked up, it's just you have so much more time on your hands. But yeah, it'd be nice if you could keep it up when he comes out, stay consistent.
Or just have your team and just put yourselves in a certain position where you don't have to. We'll always have certain distractions, right? But I would like to see him be put in a place, or if he can move out of that space he is in Florida, and I know they probably love Florida because they get a lot of bang for their buck down there. But you got to get out of your comfort zone. Just don't wait to go to prison to start changing your life. You got all the opportunity to do in there. Huh?
It's a Broward County baby. But you know what? Also, being rich, 19.
Oh, yeah, I forgot how young.
Yo, he's immature. If you don't remember one of the reasons why he got violated, they said because he does have an anger issue, and you can imagine a guy who's been
most young black men do.
Yeah, right. So he was put in a anger management course, and he literally got kicked out, and that was one of the reasons he got violated. You know why? Because he was incessantly burping. Like, if that's not a sign of immaturity, if you think burping like while they're teaching a class is like so funny to the point you get kicked out, like you can tell that's immaturity. And again, I know it's only a year ago, but I'm hoping him being behind bars, also him watching what's going on, especially in Florida. We're seeing some of these younger rappers, they're getting locked up like this.
But he's been in there for a year already, since the last violation?
No, I think this happened earlier this year when they raided his house.
Yeah.
All right.
A few months.
But he was talking about the bourbon incident.
Yeah.
All right.
But I hope he watches to see what's going on with other rappers. I remember, which so ironic. I remember the conversation that was on his Instagram where X was calling him and say, hey, listen, this is before he got locked up, and say, hey, watch the people around you and watch the energy around you, because that could land you somewhere bad. So I hope he just learns something, man. It's all about learning. And he's young, but you don't want to spend your younger years just being locked in a cell.
The thing is that the more trouble you get in when you're younger, it hurts you when you get older, because the more you violate, the judge just says, you're not learning your lesson, I'm going to sit you down for 10 this next time. And then your career is over, you know? So hope this young man turns it around.
Keep it up, Kodak.
Keep it up.
All right, so last week after XXXTentacion's memorial service, his team released a video for Sad. I imagine it must have been a little difficult for fans watching this right after his death. Let's take a look.
I don't know, yeah. Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Yeah, suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know, yeah. I'm sad, I know, yeah.
So we see him sort of wrestling with his past at a funeral in this video. What do you guys think, especially, you know, of course, when it was released?
I believe this is the video of the year for me. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a little close to the situation, and also I had a lot of conversations where he was describing this video. Even publicly when we had our 3-hour Twitch conversation, he was describing what's seen here, which is he used to be a kid, again, anger issues. He did a lot of things that he wasn't necessarily proud of, but he was trying to change, and he changed. So he was really trying to also change people's perception of him, where people perceived him as this young kid who's done so many crazy and bad things. He was trying to reinvent himself. Well, you know, it's a video that kind of, now that you realize that he passed, it's a little eerie. But I did speak to his mom, and you know what, which was so crazy. She said this video fucked her up, and she said, I saw this video for the first time the night before it got released, which was after his death. And it was the first time she saw it. You can imagine a mother seeing that, and it really shook her up. But you know what? She did respect his vision even before he died to have that be the visual for this particular song. X is someone who, again, battled depression and other mental issues, and while he wasn't a guy who was necessarily on medication, he used music to medicate, and he tried to help others who were afflicted just like him. So again, these visuals and the songs and even this message will continue to live on, but I will say very powerful video. In my opinion, it's the best video of the year.
Well, I mean, what this reminded me of, well, one time 50 Cent, he said on a song, in the Bible I read, death is at its tongue, and if you talk about death enough, death is gonna come, right? And when you look at X's career, you know, it's very short-lived, right? It's very short-lived. There's a lot of death, right? Now, doesn't mean that that's exactly why he died, right? But he spoke about death a lot, and it reminds me a lot of Tupac. You know, when Tupac died, he put out I Ain't Mad At You. And I Ain't Mad At You, he died, and his man was coping with his death, and he was his man's angel and always on his shoulder. And in terms of a lot of rappers that passed away, when you look at Biggie, his first album was called Ready to Die. His second album was called Life After Death. It's like all of these different things where I don't know if they foresaw death in their future directly, but their music kind of led them to that in a sense, as far as the subject matter and the visuals. And it's like with X, what I got out of the video that I did like was he was killing off the old version of himself to kind of go in a new direction, you know? But I'm just not and I mean, maybe this is new, I'm just not a person big on always speaking death. You know, I mean, if you're always speaking it, is gonna come in different ways. It might not necessarily happen to you, but if you put certain things into the universe, they come back a certain way.
Yeah, I understand. People do that. You put things out, you manifest them, and
I do believe now not even some, but a lot of the music for a lot of these new artists, they look at death as not only the inevitable, but they look at as death as an escape. So when you hear most of them, they're singing about issues. I could go back to Lil Peep. He had a song, it was a great song actually, called Better Off Dying.
That's horrible,
right?
yo.
You look at Uzi. The thing, Uzi one of my favorite artists, but people don't realize, if you really look at, just read through the lyrics of most Uzi songs. Most of the songs, he's basically saying he's numb to all of this. He can't feel. And honestly, he doesn't care if he's here or not. And
he's not like that in life, though. He's not like that in life.
I wouldn't know. I don't know him that personally.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just tired of this shit. Like, what the fuck is these kids so sad about? Like, that's what, you motherfuckers is making $50,000 a night. My thing is like, stop calling about death all the time. Like, what's everybody's bad? A lot of people battle a lot of different things, but a lot of them just be making this shit because it's the end thing to do. When I was growing up, the end thing to do was to have bars and metaphors and all of that shit. And I feel like a lot of these kids, I wouldn't say that they're not going through shit, but I feel like a song about death is just making you think of, like, when something's not that serious, you like, oh, I just want to die. You should never be making no fucking song about how it's better to die. As a young kid, like, that shit is disgusting, and it's a larger issue because we desensitized, like we was talking about yesterday, with these kids and being able to pick up their phone and see people getting shot in their head and getting murdered and all that other shit. That shit is disgusting. I'm a father, so it's like I can't jack a kid talking about some, oh, I'm so sad, the world is so sad, and for what?
Yeah, I mean, look, growing up is tough, and especially growing up in this sort of social media generation, I think a lot of kids, like, although they have so much more exposure, they're more lonely, they're more depressed, and so, like, growing up, like, I connected with Eminem because I understood all the shit he was frustrated about, but yet, to your point, when some people are doing it, I know, when people are doing it just for money,
that's
you know
what I'm saying.
Then it becomes
because these motherfuckers is driving, like, they talking about something, I want to die, and then you driving a Lambo, throwing fucking money in the air, but you want to die. Like,
it's hard for me to tell, like, who's genuine and who's not, so I just kind of, like, I believe you in your own sense, and also only you and God knows. But the way I look at all of this, right, is, and I think Lil Xan most recently is probably the epitome of it. I look at it like some of these kids were born to situations where their parents may be on drugs, right? Again, all these chemical imbalances, I don't know. Again, I'm speculating. But hearing Lil Xan, I remember on a video that went viral recently when he went live and, like, his manager cut it off, where he said that, yo, like, my dad was a crackhead. And I know a lot of people took jokes in that, but obviously his name is Lil Xan. He used to have a Xanax addiction. He got predisposed to drugs and kind of almost led into it because of his parents. You get me? So now he's a little bit, like, his shit is a little off, and now he might be medicated or not, but he is gonna have, he's not gonna think normally. Again, I can't resonate with it, and I remember, listen, I can tell you this quick story before we get off this topic. I remember X, when he dropped 17, he called me and said, listen, Ak, he said, I'm going to send you this album. I want you to go in a room and I want you to turn off all the lights and sit there and listen to it. And I said, X, what the fuck is you talking about? This ain't one of your fans. Because it was a depressed album. Okay. This album, he said that was for depressed people. And I said, X, I could listen to the album like I listen to everything else, but I'm not depressed, okay? And I'm not going to try to be depressed to enjoy this album. So, again, who knows if all these things are sincere with everyone, but all I will say, whether it's through music or otherwise, I hope they get help.
Listen, man, I feel you, but, like, most of these rappers, period, be liars. Majority of them is liars. They lie about everything, about how they living. A lot of them lie about how they grew up and all of that shit. And then and I can only say that, it's a case-by-case basis, but, like, I can only say that from how long I've been in the game and how many rappers I've been around, right? And like we both agreed on, like, a lot of them is doing that because that's the end thing, to rap about this type of shit. And my thing is you sending a lot of people down the wrong path. It's a lot of rappers that be talking about drugs that they don't even use. Fuck out of here. I'm sorry, and this is not towards X. I'm just saying a lot of them is, like, using one thing to make an excuse to be one way. And I'd be damned if I let my son get hooked on drugs because some rappers talking about being sad, and if I yell at him, he's gonna be sad and say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna pop a Xanny because my father's upset at me. The fuck out of here. Excuse me, y'all.
I do think some of the fans that try to, I've seen fans try to like be like, oh, they try to get depressed to fit in.
That's not supposed to be the point.
That's corny.
You're supposed to find solace in the music and then be able to grow and evolve. It should be your therapy. It shouldn't make
just
you
watch what you putting out in the
want to
universe.
be suicidal or anything like that, you know?
Watch what you put out in the universe.
Facts, Desk.
Yeah, but R.I.P. To X.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got a couple quick hits before we get out of here. So I believe last week we said Tiana Taylor was sort of disappointed with her album release. It was delayed, and then she said the samples didn't clear. Essentially, it wasn't the version of the album she wanted to put out. So she said she would re-release it, but she took that back on Twitter, saying, a lot of clearance issues, takes time. At this point, I will leave the album the way it is and will just debut my extended records through my visuals. So sort of, I feel like at the time, we know you said she should have never even mentioned it. I guess you're right. It's unfortunate that this is happening to her, but at least she's trying to make the most of it.
Hey, man, Kanye out here rushing people, man. I'm telling you, he got caught up in that wave. Yo, all right, we going, shit, everybody, who in the room? You putting out your album now. Word, me too. He rushed her shit. And it wasn't a bad album. Like, it wasn't a bad album, but that's not probably what she wanted. And you can see that seeping through in these comments.
And also, I believe, like, you have to treat each artist, especially when you're on a label, very differently according to how they are, too. I think she probably needed that grandiose, like, rollout and really presence. Like, this is her first offering to the world. This is not like, again, all respect, and we love Nas, but we've had a lot of Nas projects, so it was just another addition to what we already know, to a whole palette that's already been established. For her, like, we really needed to get focus on this for like at least a month.
Yeah, maybe even some visuals, like she said, if they came first. Because remember, it was Fade, right? The one she did at the VMAs video. That was super dope, right? I mean, like, once that dropped, everyone was looking her up who didn't already know.
Right.
Even a rollout like that, just some cool videos with her, directed by Ye, whatever, would have been great.
Yeah, she's more than just a musician. You know what I mean? Like, essentially, she's like a full-on artist. Like, she does dance and she acts and all of that. And I think with T, you got to take your time. And just with putting out albums, you could put out a 7-song album quickly if you got all the samples and been working on that shit 2 months ago. You can't just say, all right, let's do this, and then reach out to everybody in a day and think you're getting everything cleared. So, you know, I just think she should have never mentioned it, because now people going to start saying, well, does she really want to be a good music? Like, people going to start speculating a lot of different shit.
And also, I think people are going to start speculating, was this, I won't say album good, but is this a success?
Right.
You get me? So I think now you get people to look elsewhere. Like, now when I see like certain complaints, I'm like, wait, let me go look at these sales now. And I look at the sales, and I'm like, maybe this isn't that successful. Maybe now we have to like pause the bandwagon on, oh, yo, Tiana's next up, because it didn't perform as well.
But at the same time, see, but that's the problem when people start looking at the sales as opposed to listening to the music. I mean, I know sales say a lot, but you got to do a lot of work. And times is different, but Juvenile had 400 Degrees. That shit sold 5,000 the first week, and it went on to sell like 5 million, and is a critically acclaimed classic album. Akon too. He only sold like 3,000 first week and then went platinum. So the thing is that it's not about where you start, it's where you finish. And I think now with sales projections and all that, a lot of people's first week sales make them discouraged, or even make the label discouraged, because they think, well, it didn't come out and blow out the water.
In that case, do you think this is fair, right? So if Kanye rushed her to put out this album, can Def Jam then hold that against her when it's time for another project? Or can they understand that it wasn't fair how the album was rolled out?
It depends on who's giving the executive orders, because essentially what they're probably doing over there is Kanye does what he wants to do because he's Kanye. Like, he has no budget. He does what he wants to do. He says, all right, this is what I'm doing. Now they have to distribute it and put it out. But I don't think you can hold that against her. I feel like we all felt like it's a good project. Now they just got to start getting creative and build more assets around it. Like, don't just let it die because it didn't perform well the first week and none of that shit. Like, she has a show.
Here's the thing, though, and this is what I feel is just kind of it's, if we're reading between the lines, and even with what you're saying, I agree, but you don't get a second chance at a first impression. And the first impression could have been better. And I mean, we're still continuing with this, we're calling it a first impression. Will Def Jam realize how important this is and try to support it, given the fact that, I mean, she's kind of publicly saying that, and it's saying the exact thing I wanted out now, and I'm going to try to make it up, but we ain't re-releasing nothing.
Question for you guys. She's been on Good Music for a while. I don't know like the details of her contract or how long she's there, etc. Do you guys think Tiana would flourish on another label where maybe people could be more hands-on with her? We know Kanye's got a lot going on always.
I don't think, well...
Or does the label not matter?
Essentially, the label don't matter in a lot of senses, right? So kids are not saying, he signed here, I want to listen to that. It's more...
I just mean more of like the way like Quality Control moves or TD moves. It seems like they really support artists. It feels like Kanye doesn't have enough time on his hands. Of course, Push is there, but...
Well, when you look at Quality Control with QC, they're their own like entity that has distribution. Like kind of how Good Music ran years ago. It was, you thought Good Music, you didn't think about their distributor. Like nobody talks about, they all made, like Lil Baby has a major label deal. Like he's not just an independent artist. They just have a team and a structure. And I think that when you got a dude running around and he's talking about he's getting lipo and slavery is a choice and all this other shit, and that's the head guy that everybody looks to, it's gonna affect you. Yeah. So this is why Daytona ended up being, to me, the best out of all the projects, is because it had been being prepared for such a long time that by the time it came out, Push already knows who he is. He's not trying to figure nothing out. Right. We wanted him to rap.
And this is why it's so much, like, that situation where she's on Good Music is different from, like, say, SZA on TDE, or, I mean, how QC are treating artists. It felt like Kanye just said, all y'all niggas gonna fit into my little schedule.
Yep.
Instead of saying, hey, if it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years. If it's gonna be done tomorrow, it's done tomorrow. It's based on you, right? And when you're now telling artists that we got my schedule, because I announced it on Twitter, we gotta go. We don't give a fuck about if you got all these, or not even blaming her in saying that she doesn't have the records ready. Basically even looking at the label saying, we don't give a fuck if y'all can clear it or not. Something coming out. That's a problem, right?
It's a big problem.
It's literally the opposite. So remember with SZA, before the album dropped a few months, she was getting upset. She was on Twitter like, yeah, I give up. The album's never coming out. And like, of course she was frustrated at the time, but it was clearly for the best because the album was phenomenal. So Tiana literally seems to have the opposite problem.
Timing is the biggest part of this game. And I just think that it would have been better to see the album come out maybe this month with a whole focus. Like if every album would have had a monthly focus as opposed to a weekly. Because these albums, they only 7 songs, and we could all be honest here. For every artist, I say, aside from Pusha, but Pusha's albums have always been short, like 13 or 11 tracks. These are not at the top of their game as far as their catalogs. From Nas to Cudi and Ye to Ye himself. These are not their top projects. So I would have rather seen like a monthly rollout where it's a big focus and then you go from there, as opposed to, all right, this week is you, this week is you, this week is you, and then now it's like
I'm on the plane from Paris finishing up the album.
Right,
what?
It's like, and now it's like we kind of forgetting about these, they kind of getting lost in the wind. Where Tiana, she just need a little bit more focus. Like she need a little bit more focus. First of all, like to have I hate to say it, but a female artist, you gotta put a little bit of extra time in. You need that. Cardi is not no overnight success. That's a lot of her working on her side and then getting with a label and then them taking time to work her shit. Even Nicki. Nicki had been trying. For years she was trying. And once they did it, they took time to do it. It didn't just come out. So they should have just took more time. Now we're gonna think differently about these 7-song albums and how fast they came out, as opposed to, oh, this is just the best month of hip-hop, we getting so much music.
Right. So Chance and Kanye have one coming. I think he said they're going to be working on it this month.
Bet you they take time on that shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly would Chance let this project be rushed or how this one will work out, but are we looking forward to this? Yeah, right?
I don't even know now.
I want a prayer meeting for them. That's it.
You say you want what?
I want a prayer meeting. I don't want no fucking album from them. Pray.
I want this album.
Dude, man.
We want Kanye production, Chance doing all the rapping on this album.
You hoping for that. You gonna hear the first line, you gonna hear that nigga Kanye says, slavery was a choice. Watch.
What?
That's what you're gonna hear in the fucking album. You think Kanye gonna not rap? Kanye probably gonna rap more on this joint than Chance.
Please no.
This is this 7.
cool on
if
Kanye
we
raps
learn
right
if we
now.
learn anything, and we just had a conversation about it. If you learn anything about this whole little rollout where everybody's just jamming in projects, this is more about Kanye than the artist. This is about Kanye. So I don't think Kanye is really trying to take backseat, especially if it's a joint project. I mean, the ones he's executive producing, he's influencing and controlling, whether it's rushing it, picking whatever. Like this is about him. Kanye is a narcissist of the narcissist, and when it comes to him and Chance, he ain't sitting back letting Chance shine. He about to overpower this shit, singing all type of fucking house Negro anthems, man. Yo, Chance might have to cut his verse. I'm telling,
brother.
What do you mean what I'm talking about? He's gonna say the same
House
shit he been saying.
Negro anthems.
He gonna say the same shit he been saying on TMZ. What you think he gonna do? You think we getting woke Kanye back?
It's
We
just
know
like
that
he's saying
now.
crazy
We've
shit on
already had
TMZ,
three.
then
We
he's
already had 4
woke Kanye
chances.
on the record.
Of course we're
Yeah,
not.
so.
All right, on Nego House Music Spirituals, whatever you just said, I feel like it's a good note to just close the show. All right, guys, so tomorrow is the 4th of July, right? Today's the 3rd. Yeah, so we are off tomorrow. We will be back Thursday with an evergreen episode. Section 80 is 7 years old this week. We do want to talk about that project. So we will see you Thursday at 11 a.m. on Everyday Struggle.
What song is playing in your head?
Yeah, I'm telling you my feelings about Drake. I added to my playlist. Kiki, I'm going to play it right now.